Welcome to Botanical Rebellion, where we steep in reality like a strong cup of tea. No sugarcoating, just real conversations about reclaiming our well-being without the bullshit. This is the podcast where we examine self-care without the fluff. Like tea leaves unfurling in hot water, we're breaking down what really matters to take care of ourselves in a world that profits from our disconnection. We'll talk about the uncomfortable truth because real self-care isn't about escape, it's about showing the fuck up. We live in a world where social media gets more attention than our medical charts, where hydrate more is a universal prescription for everything from headaches to debilitating chronic pain, where being too young for illnesses becomes a dismissive death sentence of inaction and disbelief. This isn't about expensive products or quick fixes. It's about radical accountability and creating a revolution in how we show up for ourselves. However, before we storm the gates of modern healthcare, let's get the legal bullshit out of the way. Here's a disclaimer. This is not medical advice. It's a resistance manual. Always work with qualified healthcare providers. And remember, you're the commander-in-chief of your body. What you're about to hear is educational content filtered through years of personal experience and scientific research. Let's go over the foundation, your body's warning system. I want to talk about something that we don't get taught in school, like how to read your body's distress signals. Your body is not subtle. It's screaming in code. And today, we're here to decipher that code. You think your afternoon headache is just from staring at screens? Or the constant fatigue is just modern life or getting old? That the brain fog is normal? Well, think again, my little rebels. These aren't just inconveniences. They're intelligence reports that are coming from your internal resistance movement. Let's decode some common signals. Chronic headaches, your nervous system is filing a complaint. Digestive issues, your gut's staging a protest. Joint pain, your structure is demanding maintenance. Insomnia, your circadian rhythm is on strike. Brain fog, your neural networks are drowning in static. Let's start with the arsenal of nutrition and hydration. So you remember growing up the saying, you are what you eat. So let's update that. You are what you absorb, process, and utilize. In my upcoming book, Botanical Rebellion, we'll deep dive in nutrition when it comes to the sense of adaptogens and botanicals and herbs. But today we are just going to start with the basics. Our bodies require a complex array of nutrients to function optimally, yet many people unknowingly suffer from deficiencies that impact their daily health. Modern diets with the heavily processed components often deliver insufficient nutrients while introducing potentially harmful food additives. Don't even get me started on the MTHFR mutation, which up to 40% of the population has. I will definitely be discussing that, but that's like a whole episode on its own. So we'll focus instead on essential nutrients, common deficiencies, and food additives. For now, we'll explore the essential nutrients our bodies need and how their absence or the presence of certain food additives affect our well-being. Proteins serve as the building blocks of our bodies, composed of amino acids that construct everything from muscle tissue to enzymes and hormones. Protein deficiencies can manifest as muscle wasting, weakened immunity, hair loss, and slow wound healing. Vitamins function as crucial micronutrients that facilitate numerous biochemical reactions. For example, vitamin D regulates calcium absorption and immune function, with deficiencies linked to bone fragility and increased susceptibility to infections. Vitamin B12 is essential for nerve function and DNA synthesis, so insufficient levels can cause fatigue, neurological problems, megablastic anemia characterized by abnormally large red blood cells, just to name a few. Now we have minerals like iron, magnesium, and zinc that play vital roles in oxygen transport, muscle function, and immune responses, respectively. Iron deficiency, which is the most common nutritional deficiency worldwide, causes fatigue, pale skin, impaired cognitive function as oxygen transport to tissues diminishes. Magnesium deficiency often presents as muscle cramps, muscle spasms, arrhythmias, and heightened anxiety due to its role in over 300 enzymatic, that's a hard word to say, reactions, particularly those involving energy production and nervous system regulation. Wow. Now, just want to share with you one of my hacks for getting solid sleep is taking a magnesium complex at night because it relaxes all the muscles and also it's kind of like a sedative. It helps you to sleep. So you don't really want to take it necessarily in the daytime, but at nighttime, oh my God, I sleep so well. And again, don't forget to talk to your healthcare provider because too much of anything is also bad too. So you want to make sure you know what your levels are and you're guided by a professional. Go to the doctor. I'm not saying we're boycotting medical care. Like, that's so important, but we just want to understand, like, this is our fucking health we're talking about. Now we'll go over some common deficiencies and the scientific symptoms attached. Vitamin D deficiency is really common. It affects approximately 42% of Americans, compromising in calcium absorption and bone mineralization. As a hairstylist, by the way, I've been doing hair for 15 years now, just sidebar. But your hair, like, I will notice this a lot in clients. They will have a lot of shedding, and a lot of times I'll ask them when I notice that if they know what their vitamin D level is. A lot of times they're low, and I can tell because their hair is shedding. So keep in mind, like, we're in a very vain world where beauty is important and kind of takes a pedestal. So if this is what you need as your motivating factor, then listen up. If your health is suffering anywhere, the first thing it's going to rob from is your hair, skin, and nails. That is right. So for me, another thing I like to take is biotin. I also take vitamin C because it helps with your collagen production, your immune system. It's an antioxidant. But yeah, biotin is great for the hair, skin, and nails. Anyway, beyond skeletal effects, vitamin D also has receptors that exist in almost every tissue, linking deficiency to increased risk of autoimmune disorders and respiratory infections. So we need that D, all right? It's important. So is B. B vitamin deficiencies disrupt cellular metabolism in very distinctive ways. Folate, which is B9, deficiencies impair DNA synthesis and cell division, particularly affecting rapidly dividing cells like those in bone marrow and intestinal lining. This results in megablastic anemia and potentially neural tube defects during embryonic development. It is so fucking important. And there's many Bs, by the way. But again, we'll get to that later. Insufficient B6 levels interfere with the neurotransmitter synthesis, potentially causing depression, confusion, and peripheral neuropathy. That's like the pins and needles tingling. All right, I cannot handle it. I have to do like a quick little mention of the MTHFR mutation. It's a genetic variation that affects the MTHFR enzyme. You want to know what MTHFR stands for? Let me see if I can say this off the top of my head. Methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. Woo! Okay, but it looks like motherfucker in short. The MTHFR mutation is a genetic variation that impairs the body's ability to process folate and convert it into its active form. This can cause cardiovascular issues as well as pregnancy complications. And again, up to 40% of the population has it. I am one of them. I found out that I have the MTHFR mutation, so I take a bioactive form. It's a methylated form of B12. It's a complex, but it's basically like processed for me since I can't do it myself. Folic acid is something that is put in a lot of our foods to fortify our foods so that way we can get this essential vitamin. But folic acid is a synthetic form of folate. So if you have the MTHFR mutation, your body's not doing shit with folic acid, and now you have too much of something that you can't even use and you're deficient in folate that you need. Folate is B9 and it's naturally found in leafy greens, citrus fruits, while folic acid is the man-made synthetic version that's in supplements and fortified foods. So if you have the MTHFR mutation, you kind of want to know, right? Because, you think you're getting this vitamin and it's good for you, but if your body doesn't know what to do with it, then what's the point? So this is also why it's important to get some blood work done, talk to your doctor, run some tests. All of these things help us to know the code and the cheat sheet and how to take the best fucking care of ourselves, which in the long run helps us as a whole. It helps your mental health, your physical health, everything. So, It's important. Mineral imbalances create cascading physiological disruptions. Low zinc levels compromise taste perception, wound healing, and immune cell development. And let me tell you, the immune system, it is so important for that. Taking zinc supplements, however, that can sometimes make you nauseous. Myself, for example, when I take zinc, like the pill form, I will puke it up. Like that nausea is like no other, but everyone's different. I personally like the drops, or I'll get it in liquid form and it just doesn't bother me. I don't know how it works, but I'll take it. I notice when my immune system is low, I probably need zinc. This is all me personally. Again, this might not apply to you. Check your shit out from the doctor. But recently I had like my lips were getting really dry and like almost like a contact dermatitis. They were like peeling and then it was bad. Like I looked diseased, guys. Like it was not okay. And then I was like, oh yeah, I have low zinc. Why am I not taking any zinc right now? And I started taking my zinc drops again and holy shit, my immune system is a little bit tougher and I haven't been having the weird like skin outbreak thing. So again, your body will tell you, okay? And when it starts to affect your physical appearance, it'll make you listen a little faster. But let's get ahead of it, right? All right, I want to talk about the impact of food additives on nutritional health, okay? Because like it's important. It's all important. I hope you're writing this down. I'm just kidding. I'll make a blog post for you. Well, artificial food dyes, particularly petroleum-derived colors like red 40, yellow 5, blue 1, they're associated with behavioral changes in susceptible individuals. And let me just tell you, I'm talking about the MTHFR people again. And I'm just going to do an episode. Trust me, don't worry. Anyway, some people are sensitive to the dyes, and it could be people outside of the MTHFR mutation, but let's just say it's just not healthy. I mean, think about all the other countries that have it banned, and like we're just now kind of somewhat getting around to it. I don't know why we're so behind with this, but you know. Well, anyway, research indicates that these compounds can trigger histamine release and neurological hyperactivity by interfering with zinc metabolism and disrupting neurotransmitter regulation. Preservatives extend food shelf life, but they're going to compromise the nutritional value and the physiological function. Sulfites, which are in wine and dried fruits, destroy thiamine, which is vitamin B1. Want to know what else destroys vitamin B1? Alcohol. So alcohol interferes with the absorption of thiamine in the GI tract. It's going to damage the lining of the intestines, reducing the ability to absorb the nutrients properly. In alcoholics, the liver damage from chronic alcohol use, this is also essential for storing and activating thiamine. So an impaired liver function is going to also reduce the body's ability to use thiamine effectively. So a lot of alcoholics, when they're going through detox, they have to be given vitamin B1. We have to also be careful with nutrient depleted diets because they create a perfect storm when you also throw in food additives and preservatives and all of that shit. It's a perfect storm for functional deficiencies, even in calorie sufficient diets. So that's why you have to really be mindful about everything that's on your plate, whatever you're eating, like each day, intake, all of that good stuff. It's really important to be just mindful because if you're just eating whatever, you might have a crazy amount of sugar that is in your diet. You could be having a diet that is completely deficient in XYZ. And so when you're not being mindful, fast forward a couple years from now, there's going to be long-term effects. So let's get that shit right and let's take the best care of ourselves. Understanding these interactions empowers us to make informed dietary choices that are going to prioritize nutrient density and minimize exposure to potentially harmful additives. I'm a big, firm believer on we have to give ourselves a fighting chance. If we feel like shit, if our mental health sucks, what are we doing for it? Like, what are you giving yourself? What are you putting in your body? Or, have you drank water today? In fact, I probably haven't. I'm going to do that right now. Speaking of hydration, let's talk about hydration protocols. I want to get real about this. Forget about your 8 glasses a day. Hydration is as unique as our own DNA. So let's go ahead and create a personalized battle plan for getting hydrated. So calculate your baseline. You're going to take your weight in pounds, divide it by 2, and that is your minimum water intake in ounces. All right, that's just a start. You also want to factor in exercise compensation. So you're going to add 12 ounces for every 30 minutes of movement. Now, if you are like going crazy and really hitting it hard at the gym, good for you, but you might need some electrolytes, okay? Because you might be sweating and pissing out too much, and we need to put that back, right? I am personally a big fan of coconut water for hydration. It is like nature's Gatorade without the dyes and all the bullshit. You've got a lot in there. But if you're like me, as much as I say that, like I have to kind of mask it with other things, like having it in a smoothie or put some pineapple juice or whatever. But that's just one option to getting the electrolytes in there. You will also need to adjust for your environment. So if you're in a really dry climate, I mean, I'm in Florida. It's not very dry. It's humid, but it can get really hot, okay? And you can sweat your ass off. So if you're in a really dry climate or high altitude, you might need a little more water. And then let's talk about caffeine. You also need to counterbalance your caffeine. So you want to add 8 ounces for every caffeinated beverage. So if you had a coffee, that's cool, but drink a glass of water. If you're having another coffee for the day, okay, drink another glass of water. And I know we are talking about water and staying hydrated right now, but I'm going to do another little sidebar on caffeine. The recommended daily caffeine intake for most adults is up to 400 milligrams. So let me break down caffeine in common beverages. 8-ounce brewed cup of coffee is 95 milligrams of caffeine. 1 shot of espresso is equal to 63 milligrams of caffeine. Energy drinks typically contain a significant amount of caffeine, ranging from 80 to up to fucking 300 milligrams per serving. Oh my God. Also, check your pre-workout stuff because there's caffeine in that. There's caffeine in chocolate. There's caffeine in Excedrin. So caffeine can hide in other ways. So make sure you are not going crazy and way over that daily recommendation. Now back to hydration. Signs that you are underhydrated. Number 1, your urine will be dark. You're going to aim for a light straw color. If your pee is clear and it looks clear in the bowl, obviously it's going to be diluted in the bowl. But if it's clear and it has no color at all, you are overhydrating. But again, you don't want dark urine. Go for that pale yellow. Afternoon fatigue is another sign that you might be underhydrated. Constipation is a sign that you could be dehydrated. Which, another thing, like if you are constipated and you can't shit, you need water, okay? Because that is going to help absorb your poops and help it move a lot faster. Trust me. Same thing for if you're like an IBS girl, which I get it. You need to hydrate for like the diarrhea too, because you're losing fluid, okay? So water at the end of the day is going to help. It's going to help you poop. Headaches, that's another example. Your body needs water. Having headaches, poor concentration. Think about it. If your blood volume is low because you're dehydrated, then you're going to have those kind of symptoms. Having more water in your body, staying hydrated, you're going to kind of plump up your blood volume and it's not going to be having such a hard time circulating, right? Another sign would be dry lips, dry skin. Okay, you want that glowing, beautiful skin? Drink some fucking water, right? Okay, so you get my point. Let's switch it up and talk about medical advocacy. Medical advocacy is not just about speaking up. It's about speaking strategically. It's about finding your voice. Let's start with documentation. You want to keep a track of this shit. Like sometimes I make a joke about weddings, like people plan a wedding and they have a planner. They have an actual planner that they hire, but then they have like a journal type planner that they write all their notes in and a folder and a binder and all this stuff. And it's like, that's just for one day of your life. Like this is your fucking health. So get a binder, have a notes folder in your phone, figure out your system. There's also patient portals that you can access. Find your system. Speaking of documentation, there's also the medical records department. You are allowed to access them. So if you don't have that in the patient portal and you want to find a report of an x-ray that you had in 1992, you can. You just go to the medical records department, or you can contact, if it's not local, you can go on the website and usually there's forms you can fill out And get this, because honestly, you're not likely to have all of the important documents in your medical records in one place, because chances are you've been to this hospital, that hospital, and they're not connected and they don't talk to each other and they can't access each other's files and blah, blah, blah. So that's where it's important for you. This is your job too. This is collaboration, okay? So when I go and see my doctor, I have my records on my phone in like an album. I can pull them up from whatever. Sometimes I'll print certain things out and bring them in physically to hand it to them, or a CD. I don't fuck around. If I go and see a doctor and I know that I have imaging from another hospital, I'm going to bring that CD in physically, because they're not going to be able to access it most likely. This is also important because sometimes you'll see trends. Sometimes it can take years to get a specific diagnosis. And if you have years of records showing certain findings, it can show a trend. And this is data that they're collecting to finally get that diagnosis that you might be looking for. Also, you want to track your symptoms. Again, you can be old school, old fashioned, have a pencil and a notebook and write down the date and your symptoms. This is great for like a food diary if you're trying to figure out like allergies, or maybe you want to see if there's a certain time of the month that you get that same freaking migraine, or maybe that migraine is linked to something that you're eating. So keeping the diary and tracking your symptoms can be really important, especially if you're trying to nail down some type of diagnosis. Also with documenting, record dates, times, triggers, take photos if you have visible symptoms. That medication journal also comes in handy. I will say when you go and see the doctor, you have to also include the supplements you're taking, include anything herbal as well. As much as I love the herbal stuff and teas and all of that holistic everything, there still has to be transparency, because some things can interact with certain disorders, certain medications. I know, for example, some medications you can't have grape. It could fuck with that. So you need to also just be transparent and have that list. So that way when you go and you're going over your medication with the nurse or the doctor, they can get the whole picture and make sure there isn't something that could be causing a little chaos. Appointment strategy. So bring that list that we just discussed of your symptoms and questions. You want to always be prepared and have questions. How many times have you left the doctor's and you thought, oh shit, I totally forgot to ask this. I totally forgot to bring up that. Having your written list to go over, like in a little outline that you want to make sure you cover certain things, if something doesn't get forgotten, is so important, because your next follow-up appointment might not be for 4 months, 6 months, a year. So you want to make sure you're not missing anything, because sometimes those appointments are only like 15 minutes. They're quick in and out. So be prepared. Also, take notes. And if you need extra explanations, it's literally the nurse's job to educate. Like a huge chunk of the nurse's job is to teach the patient. They're supposed to teach the patient about the procedure they're going to have, the medications that they're on, or whatever they're dealing with. It's part of it. So you can also request a printout of what they're discussing, or bring a pen and paper and take notes. Feel free to bring an advocate with you. Sometimes it's great to have a support buddy, especially if you're really nervous or you're afraid you're going to forget something, or maybe it just all went so fast, and like having that person with you, they can kind of go over it. Or maybe you're dealing with some heavy shit. Having a support person is really helpful for that. Again, back to medical records, you are allowed to ask for copies of test results. You can ask in the doctor's office, but there's a good possibility that they're not going to be able to give that to you. Sometimes they can be so kind to give you that, but 9 times out of 10, you'll have to go to the medical records department or request that. Okay, healthcare providers may get mad at me for sharing this, but use phrases like, please document your refusal to test for XYZ in my chart. Because you're going to sometimes have those doctors that are going to be like, no. That's really frustrating, which, by the way, you could find a new doctor if the doctor that you are with is not listening to you and they're brushing you off and you feel dismissed. You're allowed to find a doctor that's going to listen. And again, using a phrase like that and having them document their refusal, it's in your chart. And sometimes when you do that, you kind of make them you make their butthole clench a little bit, and they're kind of like, okay, fine. Make sure that you also create a medical interaction chart, like with your allergies, and also document family history. Family history is really important, and it's something that you might need to have it written down or tucked aside in case it got brought up at some point. All right, let's talk about sleep. It's so fucking important. You want to dim your lights, lower the temperature, initiate shutdown procedures, put your phone away. Your brain needs time to transition from battle mode to repair mode. I don't know what your sleep techniques are, but you got to figure them out, because a lot of times, especially those younger ones, like, listen, I'm 40 years old now. Like, I know if I don't sleep, the whole day's fucked. But being in your 20s, and you kind of think you have like a superhero cape on and you can just pull those all-nighters or sacrifice your sleep for XYZ. And let me tell you, you don't want to do that, because it'll come back. Okay? Sleep is really, really important. You need to rest. Figure out what your hourly sleep range should be. It's going to vary for everybody. And don't be saying shit like under 5 hours, okay? Like at least get the 6. And if you're waking up a bunch of times through that, you might want to investigate that. But sleep is so important. Sleep is a vital biological function that allows our bodies and brains to recharge, repair, and maintain proper functioning. Sleep also is important for the regulation of our metabolism. Sleep helps to regulate our hormones that control appetite and metabolism, and it can contribute to weight gain and increased cravings for those unhealthy snacks. Sleep is also crucial for emotional regulation and mental clarity. It helps to manage stress and anxiety, so keep that in mind, that a lack of sleep can lead to irritability, depression, and difficulty concentrating. And before I wrap up, let's go over a quick little breathing exercise, okay? Because sometimes life happens, and this is a nice little protocol that you can have tucked away. It's super easy to remember, easy to do. You could do it in your car, in the bathroom, while you're at your desk. It doesn't matter. Super easy. So first, you are going to breathe in over 4 seconds. So we can do this together if you want. So breathe in 4 seconds. So you're going to hold for 2, 1, 2, and then exhale over 6 seconds. And breathe out. Breathe out all that fucking bullshit. Before you go, if this episode sparked something in you, please leave a review. Your words help others to find these conversations when they need them the most. You can find me on social media under Botanical Rebellion, and my website is mistibluday.com. That's MISTIBLUDAY.com.